There are encounters in life that do not obey the laws of chance. They are connections that transcend time, bridge distances, and defy everyday logic. They are souls that, once entwined, never truly lose touch. Even if they part ways, even if they follow different paths, something invisible yet undeniable seems to guide them back to one another. There is a silent force working behind the scenes of existence, arranging circumstances, triggering synchronicities, and rekindling ancient memories with no origin in this lifetime. When two souls are destined to reunite, the universe conspires with precision and patience. Nothing is accidental when it comes to the reunion of essences that share an archetypal story. Prepare to dive into a journey where love, the psyche, and mystery walk hand in hand. If you believe true connections transcend time, comment, "I trust in the soul's reunions." Carl Gustav Jung believed that the human psyche operates in deep layers, where the personal unconscious connects to the collective unconscious, a reservoir of images, symbols, and archetypes shared by all humanity. Among these archetypes we find the anima and the animus, representing the unconscious feminine and masculine aspects present in every individual. When two souls meet again, what often happens is the mutual activation of these archetypes, causing each to recognize in the other the inner image they were unconsciously seeking. The concept of projection is central to this process. We project onto others what has not yet been recognized or integrated within ourselves. In soul encounters, this projection intensifies because the other mirrors exactly what we need to see and transform. These reunions are not merely romantic, they are profound calls to the individuation process, the journey toward realizing the self, in which the individual integrates all psychic parts, including the shadow. According to Jung, the shadow is the hidden side of our personality, everything we repress, deny, or fear. Reuniting with a significant soul often brings this shadow to the surface, challenging us to confront it, understand it, and ultimately integrate it. Thus, the relationship becomes a mirror of the soul, fostering mutual growth and self-knowledge. These reunions are not casual. They operate through synchronicity, another essential concept in analytical psychology. Synchronicity is the simultaneous occurrence of events with symbolic meaning, yet without a causal link. When destined souls meet again, synchronicity acts as a sign from the self, showing that the soul's path is unfolding. At certain moments in life, we are surprised by encounters that seem to echo something ancestral, as if we have known the person for a long time, even when our eyes meet for the first time. This immediate, inexplicable sense of recognition is a manifestation of the deep unconscious where archetypes dwell and act silently. Among them, the archetype of love holds a singular power. It awakens the inner image of the other, with whom our soul longs to reunite. For Jung, this other may appear as the anima or the animus, the unconscious feminine or masculine figures we carry within us. When we meet someone who awakens these archetypal images, a powerful psychic activation occurs. It is as if something dormant within us suddenly stirs, and our entire existence begins to revolve around that presence. The connection transcends reason, appearance, or personal history. There is a vibration that speaks directly to the soul. This is not romantic idealization, but the emergence of a symbolic force that defies logical understanding. This kind of meeting evokes the archetype of love as a force of wholeness. It is not merely attraction or emotional affinity, but a call to reintegrate a fragmented soul. The other becomes a symbolic mirror, not only of our desires but of our lacks, our essence, and what we have forgotten about ourselves. By recognizing our soul in the other, we are guided along what Jung called the process of individuation, the journey by which a person becomes who they truly are, through integrating unconscious aspects. Such profound recognition can produce a feeling of enchantment, as if time stops, as if the world around us loses importance in the face of that moment's intensity. This happens because the soul recognizes in the other a lost fragment of itself. It is in this instant that the archetype of love becomes active. It does not create the connection but reveals it. It does not invent the bond, but brings to light what already existed in invisible realms. Often this activation is accompanied by an intense sense of familiarity, a déjà vécu that cannot be explained rationally. One may feel they know the other from past lives, from other eras, or that there is a shared mission between the two souls. Jung did not categorically affirm the existence of past lives, but he recognized the power of archetypal images that transcend personal history. For him, The collective unconscious holds memories of humanity and its universal experiences, which emerge in dreams, myths, and significant encounters like these. However, recognizing one's soul in another does not guarantee an easy path. The activation of the archetype of love can be so powerful that it upends the psychic structure that had remained dormant until then. It is a call to transformation that often demands confronting the shadow, emotional wounds, and ego's illusions. Archetypal love does not come to comfort, it comes to provoke growth. It leads us to see who we are through the light the other projects onto us. Therefore, this reunion is not an end in itself, but the beginning of a journey. When two souls recognize each other, the bond formed is not only between individuals, but between their psyches, their internal symbols, their intertwined destinies. The archetype of love, activated by this meeting, becomes a silent guide toward wholeness, even if this journey includes separations, challenges, and profound transformations. The love born from this archetypal activation transcends time and form. Even if paths diverge, the mark of that recognition remains in the soul as a living reminder of what is essential. Because at its core, it is not about being with the other, but about remembering who we are when the other reveals what we have forgotten in ourselves. When two souls meet again, not only the lights each carries unite, but also the shadows. This kind of encounter, far from being merely romantic or inspiring, tends to bring intense unconscious content to the surface, especially through projection. In Jungian terms, projection is attributing to the other characteristics, feelings, or desires that actually belong to our own psyche. In soul reunions, this projection is often inevitable, as the other functions as a powerful mirror reflecting both what we love and what we fear or reject within ourselves. The deep love we feel for someone with whom we share this archetypal bond can be laden with idealizations. We see in the other not simply a real person, but an internal image corresponding to an unconscious longing. It is the anima, or the animus, manifesting, inner figures we unconsciously seek in the external world. Initially, these projections generate fascination, intense connection, and a sense of completeness. But over time, they dissolve, revealing the real human being behind the idealized image. It is at this point that the shadow begins to emerge. According to Jung, the shadow consists of everything we do not recognize or accept in ourselves: impulses, fears, insecurities, traumas, repressed desires. Reuniting with a significant soul by touching deep psychic zones activates that shadow and confronts us with aspects we would rather keep hidden. As the veil of projection lifts, the other ceases to be the imagined ideal and becomes someone who elicits intense reactions, conflicts, and judgments. This happens because when we look at them, we are in fact seeing parts of ourselves that were banished from consciousness. This process can generate pain, resistance, separations, and misunderstandings, but it also offers an invaluable opportunity for growth. Jung asserted that no one becomes enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by bringing the darkness into consciousness. Thus, the soul reunion is not merely a tale of enchantment, but a fertile field for individual transformation. Through the other, we have the chance to see who we are beyond the persona, the social mask, and begin integrating the psychic fragments that form our wholeness. The journey of the inner mirror is challenging. It requires the courage to accept that much of what we judge in the other is actually a projection of our own wound. When we feel jealousy, rejection, anger, or frustration within a deep connection, we must ask ourselves, what does this reveal about me? What is being mirrored? This reflection is essential for the relationship to cease being a battlefield and become an instrument of individuation, the Jungian path toward the self. The other is not responsible for healing our wounds, but can act as the catalyst that reveals them. And precisely for this reason, soul reunions have such profound healing power. They show us, unfiltered, where we remain incomplete, where we still refuse to look, where we continue projecting instead of integrating. When we succeed in recognizing the projection, reclaiming it, and understanding the shadow it conceals, we take a tremendous step toward emotional and spiritual maturity. It is important to remember that projection is not negative in itself. It is a necessary stage in the process of self-knowledge. At first, it is natural to see the other as a savior, as the missing half, as someone who will give meaning to our existence. But as time passes and intimacy deepens, we are challenged to let these images fall. When that happens, and we still choose to remain in the bond, it is a sign that the relationship is maturing, ceasing to be merely a mirror and becoming a genuine exchange. Thus, the soul reunion is not the final chapter, but the starting point for an inner journey. It invites us to abandon illusions, embrace our shadow, and take responsibility for who we are. Only then can we love the other, not as a projection of what we lack, but as a fellow traveler, equally imperfect, equally human, equally on the quest for self. Amid the apparent chaos of daily life, there are moments when everything seems to align mysteriously. Paths crossing by chance, words spoken at exactly the right moment, signs appearing repeatedly. For Jung, these events are not simple coincidences. They are manifestations of synchronicity, the simultaneous occurrence of connected events without a direct causal relationship. In the context of soul reunions, synchronicity reveals itself as a whisper from the collective unconscious, indicating that something greater is at work behind the scenes of reality. When two souls destined to reunite finally meet, it seldom happens in a planned or logical way. More often, it is a series of unlikely events that draws them together: an unexpected delay, a change of plans, an impulsive decision. Everything seems orchestrated by an invisible intelligence, as if destiny is patiently guiding both toward the point of convergence. Jung saw in these occurrences the action of the self, the psychic totality that embraces conscious and unconscious and guides the individual toward individuation. The self communicates through symbols, dreams, and synchronicities, opening paths and revealing purposes. Unlike determinism, Jung's concept of destiny is not a fixed script to be followed. It is a symbolic, archetypal force that offers opportunities for growth, healing, and integration. The soul reunion is more than an emotional blessing. It is also a symbolic summons, an invitation to look inward, to understand life cycles, and to recognize that what appears external is deeply connected to our inner world. Destiny, in this sense, does not impose, it proposes. Synchronicity is the language through which it expresses itself. When we experience a soul reunion, synchronicity often intensifies. Vivid dreams, recurring symbols, repeated numbers, unexpected meetings, songs that articulate exactly what we feel, déjà vu. These signs should not be ignored or rationalized, for they represent the unconscious's attempt to communicate something essential. Jung believed that the unconscious is not merely a reservoir of traumas and repressed impulses, but also a source of profound guidance, capable of showing us the way when we remain open to symbolic listening. Synchronicity bridges the internal and the external worlds. It connects psyche and matter through events that resonate with meaning. When two souls reunite, it is not uncommon for both to have simultaneously undergone similar processes, faced comparable crises, or experienced intuitions preparing them for that moment. This convergence is not a product of chance, but the result of a symbolic orchestration that transcends the linear logic of time. The unconscious's time is circular, mythical, operating under laws different from everyday rationality. Recognizing synchronicity in soul reunions means accepting that the universe has a symbolic dimension and that our lives are not mere sequences of random events. It means perceiving that the other did not appear by chance, but that there is something to be lived, learned, and transformed. This perspective invites us to relinquish excessive control and open ourselves to intuitive listening. As we become sensitive to these signs, we realize that reality is in constant dialogue with us, and that every profound reunion carries a hidden lesson, a piece of the soul's puzzle. It is common, after a soul reunion, to feel that something greater is guiding one's life. This feeling is not an illusion. It is the direct experience of synchronicity as the self's manifestation. It is not about predicting the future or seeking ready-made answers, but about cultivating a symbolic sensitivity and openness to the invisible. The more conscious we become of our inner world, the more precisely we see how the external world reflects it. Destiny then ceases to be a burden or a mystery and becomes a companion on our journey. Thus, seen through the lens of synchronicity and symbolic destiny, the soul reunion reveals that our most significant stories are written not only by actions and choices, but also by meanings, symbols, and invisible connections. When we pay attention to the signs, we understand that a symbolic intelligence guides us, and that when two souls need to reunite, the universe unfailingly finds a way to bring them together at the right time, in the right place, with the right purpose. When two souls meet again and a deep bond is formed, something far greater than the relationship itself is set in motion. What unfolds is often a psychic rite of passage, a call from the self for the individual to transcend old patterns, integrate forgotten parts of themselves, and move toward wholeness. Jung called this process individuation, the path by which a person becomes who they truly are through bringing unconscious contents into consciousness. Few events catalyze this process as powerfully as a soul reunion. This bond activates deep layers of the psyche and frequently pulls us out of our comfort zone. At first, the reunion may bring a sense of fullness, belonging, and perfect harmony. But as intimacy deepens, inevitable challenges arise. Emotional conflicts, unmet expectations, old traumas resurfacing. Far from being failures, these difficulties serve the relationship's symbolic function, provoking transformation through confrontation with what needs healing, integration, and transcendence. The pain that emerges during these processes is real and profound. Soul reunions often involve ruptures, temporary separations, or existential crises. This occurs because the other touches wounds lying dormant, reveals shadow aspects not yet embraced, and forces us to face what we avoided for years or lifetimes. Yet Jung reminds us that true transformation only happens when we descend into the psyche's depths, confront inner monsters, and bring to light what was hidden. In this scenario, the reunion becomes a rite of passage. It marks the end of an old identity and the birth of a new psychic structure. Just as in ancient myths the hero must traverse the underworld to emerge transformed, the other acts as the gatekeeper, inviting us, through their presence and mirrored reflections, to surpass the ego's limits and discover a more integrated version of ourselves. It is not a comfortable crossing, but unquestionably one of the most sacred experiences we can have. This passage demands sacrifice. We must relinquish the need for control, the expectation that the other will fill us, the illusion that true love does not challenge. In reality, profound love is what exposes, destabilizes, and compels us to see ourselves with radical honesty. And when we navigate this phase, whether together or through the pain of separation, we emerge more whole, more authentic, more aware. The self, once a symbolic call, becomes an integrated presence. Thus, the reunion fulfills its archetypal function. It is not merely about being together, but about becoming ourselves. Even if the relationship changes form or dissolves, its higher purpose is fulfilled if it led us to inner expansion, a genuine encounter with our deepest truths. Jung did not regard human relationships as ends in themselves, but as sacred mirrors of the individuation process. Few experiences provide reflections as intense as soul reunions. The suffering accompanying these reunions, however devastating, serves a purpose. It distances us from the illusory and draws us toward the essential. Suffering is not punishment, but symbolic purification. It teaches us to love without possession, to embrace without demand, to recognize the other not as an extension of our deficiencies, but as a free presence that transforms us. When we grasp this, the bond elevates to a more mature, compassionate, and authentic plane. So a soul reunion is not a fixed destiny, but an archetypal possibility, manifesting when we are ready, or when we need shaking to grow. It is a turning point in the soul's journey, inviting us to leave behind former selves and venture into the unknown with courage, clarity, and depth. Pain is part of the process, but the expansion that follows is non-negotiable. By integrating what the other reveals, we become more whole, and that more than being together is the true miracle of soul reunions. The encounters that mark our soul do not follow the pace of ordinary time. They appear as profound summonses, opening portals within us and leading us along paths we never knew existed. In Jungian psychology, soul reunions are not mere emotional coincidences, but symbolic expressions of a greater process. The call to individuation, self-knowledge, and the reintegration of all that we have been separated from within ourselves. When we allow ourselves to view these encounters as sacred rituals of transformation, we understand that loving goes far beyond being with someone. Loving is recognizing in the other the part of our soul that still needs remembering, embracing, and reclaiming. And even if the path is challenging, it always leads us to a truer place within ourselves. If you felt this message resonate deeply with your journey, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who also believes that destiny finds a way to unite what was never truly separate. Watch the video on the screen now and continue this journey of awakening, connection, and transformation. Because when the soul recognizes, the universe responds.